Hey everyone! Welcome back to Soaps HQ. I'm Sophia, and if you love the bold and the beautiful, you definitely do not want to miss what's coming next because the drama surrounding Steffi, Finn, Carter, and Ridge is getting seriously intense. We are talking about shattered trust, emotional betrayals, angry confrontations, and one friendship that could suddenly become something much more dangerous. Because Steffi is hurting, Finn is desperate, Ridge is furious, and Carter may be stepping into the middle of a marriage that is already hanging by a thread. And let me tell you, BNB fans, when emotions get this high in Los Angeles, somebody usually ends up making a decision they regret. So before we get into everything, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because Soaps HQ is bringing you all the latest bold and the beautiful spoilers, twists, rumors, and updates. Okay, let's get right into it. Steffi is done trusting Finn. Steffi Forrester has been through a lot. But this latest situation with Finn is different. This isn't simply another argument between husband and wife. This is about trust. And once trust starts disappearing from a marriage, rebuilding it can be incredibly difficult. Steffi has every reason to question Finn after everything surrounding Sheila and the secrets connected to Monaco. Finn may believe that he was trying to protect Steffi. He may believe that keeping certain information from her was the right thing to do. But from Steffi's perspective, it looks like another betrayal. And that's the part Finn may not understand. He can explain himself. He can apologize. He can promise that he loves her. But Steffi doesn't simply need another promise. She needs to know whether she can actually believe him. And right now, she's struggling with that. That's why I think Steffi's next moves are going to be extremely important. Because when Steffi gets hurt, she doesn't always sit around waiting for somebody else to fix things. Sometimes she makes her own decisions. And that's exactly where Carter comes into the story. Carter becomes Steffi's shoulder to lean on. Now, let's talk about Carter. Because honestly, this is where things get interesting. Carter isn't Finn. He isn't trying to defend himself to Steffi. He's not asking her to immediately forgive somebody. Instead, Carter is in a position where he can simply listen. And sometimes that's all a person needs when they're emotionally exhausted. Steffi is dealing with heartbreak. Carter understands complicated relationships. He understands what it's like to be caught between love, loyalty, and the desire to start over. So when these two start talking, there is an obvious emotional connection. And that's dangerous. Not necessarily because they are planning to betray anyone, but because emotional intimacy can become complicated very quickly, especially when both people are vulnerable. And according to the latest previews, Steffi and Carter turn toward each other for comfort. Now, fans immediately started asking the obvious question. Could this become something more? Could Steffi and Carter actually cross the line? Well, that part remains speculation. But I wouldn't dismiss the possibility that BNB is intentionally setting up that temptation. Because soap operas don't create this kind of emotional situation for no reason. They create it because eventually somebody has to make a choice. And Steffi may soon find herself facing exactly that choice. The night that could change everything. Now imagine this. Steffi is devastated. Carter is dealing with his own relationship problems. They're both emotional. They're both vulnerable. They start talking. One conversation becomes two. Two becomes hours. And suddenly, the boundaries that were supposed to be obvious aren't so obvious anymore. That's how soap opera affairs usually begin. Not with somebody saying, "I'm going to betray my partner." It starts with, "I just need somebody to understand me." Then it becomes, "You're the only person I can talk to." And eventually somebody realizes they've gone too far. That's why I think this Steffi Carter storyline deserves serious attention. Because even if they don't physically cross the line, emotional betrayal can still destroy a relationship. And Finn could be looking at a completely different Steffi by the time this is over. Finn is desperate to save his marriage. Meanwhile, Finn isn't just sitting around. He knows he's losing Steffi. And that scares him. Finn loves Steffi. But love isn't enough if she no longer trusts him. That's the lesson Finn is about to learn. He may try to explain everything. He may insist that his intentions were good. He may tell Steffi that Sheila wasn't supposed to become a problem again. But Steffi isn't necessarily interested in intentions anymore. She wants accountability. She wants honesty. And most importantly, she wants Finn to understand how deeply his choices affected her. So, I expect Finn to fight hard for this marriage. He may beg Steffi not to walk away. He may promise that things will be different. He may even try to convince her that their love is stronger than this latest crisis. But here's the problem. What happens if Steffi has already started emotionally moving on? That's the question hanging over this entire storyline. Ridge is furious. And then we have Ridge. Oh, Ridge is not going to stay quiet. Ridge is furious with Finn over the situation involving Sheila. And honestly, if there's one thing Ridge Forrester hates, it's seeing one of his children hurt. Steffi is his daughter. So when Ridge believes Finn failed her, he's going to have something to say about it. And I don't expect this confrontation to be calm. Ridge isn't going to sit Finn down and politely ask him to explain himself. He's angry. He's disappointed. And he may blame Finn for putting Steffi in an impossible position. Ridge could even make it clear that Finn needs to decide what he actually wants. Because from Ridge's perspective, you don't get unlimited chances with Steffi, especially when Sheila is involved. Brooke could find herself in the middle. Brooke is also going to have an interesting position in this situation. Ridge is angry. Steffi is heartbroken. Finn is desperate. And everyone has a different opinion about what should happen next. Brooke knows what it's like to experience complicated relationships. She knows what happens when secrets are kept too long. And she may become one of the people trying to calm Ridge down. But Brooke may also understand Steffi's perspective. Because when somebody feels betrayed, telling them to simply forgive and forget doesn't work. You can't force trust. And you definitely can't force somebody to feel safe again. So I wouldn't be surprised if Brooke tells Ridge that Steffi needs space to make her own decision. And that could create another disagreement between Brooke and Ridge. What about Sheila? Of course, we cannot talk about Finn and Steffi without talking about Sheila. Because Sheila is the shadow hanging over this entire marriage. Even when Sheila isn't physically standing in the room, her presence affects Finn and Steffi. That's the problem. Finn has spent so much time trying to deal with Sheila that Steffi may feel like she has constantly had to compete with a situation she never asked for. And now the Monaco revelations have brought those feelings right back to the surface. Finn may think he can separate Sheila from his marriage. Steffi may not believe that's possible. And that difference could ultimately destroy them. Carter has his own problems. But let's not forget Carter. Carter isn't some innocent bystander who suddenly wandered into Steffi's life. He's dealing with his own emotional mess. And that matters. Because Carter may not be looking for another relationship. He may simply want someone who understands him. Steffi may want exactly the same thing. And that's why their connection could become so powerful. Two people who aren't necessarily looking for love can accidentally find something they weren't expecting. And B&B loves that kind of story. Elektra and Dylan add more chaos. While all of this is happening with the adults, the younger generation isn't exactly having a peaceful week either. Elektra and Dylan continue to create tension. Their relationship is becoming increasingly complicated, and other people are beginning to question Dylan's motives. Katie may also start looking more closely at what's really happening. And that's important because secrets in this town never stay secret for long, especially when multiple people are involved. Elektra may believe she knows exactly what she wants. But Dylan could have his own agenda. And if Katie starts connecting the dots, somebody could be exposed. Will and RJ aren't out of the story. Then there's Will and RJ. Their situation continues to create tension around Elektra and Dylan. And when you have this many young people caught up in romantic confusion, one wrong conversation can change everything. Will could make a move. RJ could react. Elektra could become furious. And Dylan could use the chaos to his advantage. That's why I wouldn't completely separate this storyline from the Steffi Carter-Finn drama. B&B is currently juggling multiple relationship crises at once. And eventually, those stories could collide. Could Finn catch Steffi and Carter? Now, let's get to the question everybody is asking. Could Finn walk in on Steffi and Carter? Again, there is a difference between a spoiler and speculation. The current setup points towards Steffi and Carter becoming emotionally close. That is the part fans should pay attention to. But whether they actually have a physical affair is not something I would treat as confirmed unless the show makes it explicit. However,
Could B&B tease it?
absolutely. Could Finn misunderstand what he sees? Absolutely. Could Ridge hear a completely different version of the story? Definitely. And that's where the real soap opera chaos begins. Because sometimes you don't even need an affair. All you need is one suspicious moment. One secret conversation. One person walking into the room at exactly the wrong time. And suddenly, everything explodes. Steffi's big decision. Ultimately, Steffi has a decision to make. Does she fight for her marriage? Does she give Finn another chance? Or does she decide that enough is enough? And if Carter becomes more emotionally important to her, that decision becomes even harder. I think Steffi will take some time before making a final choice. She's too intelligent to make a permanent decision while she's this emotional. But that doesn't mean she won't make mistakes. In fact, I think that's exactly what B&B may be setting up. Steffi is vulnerable. Carter is vulnerable. Finn is desperate. Ridge is furious. And Sheila's presence has made everything worse. That's a recipe for disaster. What I think happens next. Here's my prediction. Finn is going to make a major effort to win Steffi back. He's going to apologize. He's going to explain himself. He's going to insist that he never wanted to hurt her. But Steffi won't immediately forgive him. Instead, she'll pull back. And that's when Carter becomes increasingly important. I don't necessarily think Steffi wakes up one morning and decides she wants Carter. I think the relationship develops slowly. A conversation here. A moment of comfort there. A little chemistry. And then suddenly everyone realizes this is becoming something much bigger. And Finn may realize it too late. The bigger question. But here's the bigger question. What happens when Ridge discovers that Carter has become Steffi's emotional safe place? Because Ridge may not care whether Carter and Steffi have technically crossed a line. He may see the situation as a betrayal anyway. And if Ridge confronts Carter? Oh, that could be explosive. Carter has never been afraid to stand up for himself. Ridge isn't exactly known for backing down. So imagine those two men arguing over Steffi's future. And imagine Finn arriving in the middle of it. That could become one of the biggest confrontations of the week. Final thoughts. So, B&B fans, we're heading into a very complicated week. Steffi is questioning Finn. Finn is fighting to save his marriage. Ridge is furious. Carter is becoming Steffi's emotional support system. And Sheila remains at the center of the entire problem. Plus, we've got Electra, Dylan, Will, RJ, and Katie creating another layer of romantic chaos. And honestly, I don't think this is going to be resolved quickly. If anything, I think we're just getting started. The biggest thing I'm watching is Steffi and Carter. Because if that relationship moves from emotional comfort into romantic territory, Finn isn't simply going to have a marriage problem. He's going to have a full-blown Forrester family war on his hands. And Ridge is absolutely not going to sit quietly and watch his daughter get hurt. So keep watching. Because the next few episodes could completely change the direction of Steffi's marriage. And remember, the Carter and Steffi hookup is speculation at this point, but the emotional setup is definitely something fans should be watching closely. What do you think? Should Steffi give Finn another chance? Or should she walk away and explore something new with Carter? Do you think Carter is genuinely trying to help Steffi? Or do you think he's developing real feelings for her? Let me know in the comments because I want to hear what you think. And if you enjoyed this B&B spoiler update, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Soaps HQ, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next update. I'm Sophia, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.